Well, first of all, welcome. And I'm very emotional about this particular subject, so you'll just have to excuse me. But we've been waiting for all of you for a very long time. Those of us on the exhibit committee and others have worked for years to make this day happen for IMA, but without docents, it just comes to a standstill. So thank you for coming. We're so happy to see you. Well, folks, it's nigh on to showtime. And one of the first things that I want to do is let you know, I'm going to pass these around. Take as many of these as you want. You can put a little sticker over Postal Patron and put a first-class stamp on it and send it to your friends to attend. Take as many as you want. And I'm one of the members of the exhibition committee, as is Barbara in the corner, who's recovering from a cold, so she's hiding out back there. And Yvonne is downstairs directing any stragglers up here. So those are three of us, and I think Peter is coming in a couple of minutes. We're going to go over a lot of information, and I have handouts, so initially don't feel like you have to take notes, because shortly you'll have some things, and they're all 3-hole punched for your notebooks. This information, as we go through it, was developed from interviews with the heads of or the curators of 5 other museums: Seattle Museum of Art, the Museum of Northwest Art in LaConner, the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art, the Fry, and the Tacoma. So in advance, if you want to know where some of this information came from, I'd love to pretend that it came all from my genius brain, but it did not. Now, some of you, when you hear these things, will already know them. Some of them seem so obvious in your common sense that you may be insulted. Some things we cover may seem to be beneath you. However, not everybody in the room knows every single one of these things. And IMA wants you to be safe, we want our visitors to be safe, and we want you to enjoy your job. So we're asking everyone who frequents this building to attend the workshop. And if we have to run it again in the future, we will, but Karen is here today to film it to help docents who couldn't make it be here. Next week, Reve will be orienting you to the actual art, the artists, glassmaking in general, kind of the fun stuff. I got stuck with kind of the boring stuff. So, Reve is running those workshops on Thursday at 5:30 and Friday morning the 13th at 10 a.m. And I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to come. And at that time, you probably will be able and will be walking through the galleries and looking at the various pieces of art. Until that time, you're not allowed in there for obvious reasons. Blame the insurance company, if you will. Let me first explain the duties of the exhibit committee. We decide on the exhibitions, we draft the contracts, we draft the copy for the PR material, the bios, the artist statements, the photos, the list of work in the show, we pick the dates, we pick the name of the show, we design, put up labels and signs. And so this is from a past show, and if you like, I'll send it around, but this is a small poster. So if you wonder where those come from, we basically hand this off to the PR person. We write show flyers in brochures and postcards. Postcards are going around, so I gave away my only one to wave in the air, but that's another example. In the past, almost every single show has had a postcard. And that doesn't always mean that it's mailed to every single resident of the county. It varies depending on what the show is. But we usually have one, and in addition to mailing it out, We have piles of them in every hotel and B&B, at the Chamber of Commerce, the school, galleries.
On the ferry?
Pardon?
On the ferry?
No, you have to pay for that.
Oh,
And we've spent a lot of money, so we're trying to save a little bit. We're looking for the lowest price advertising, if you will. It is also the exhibits committee's job to walk you through the information prior to a show. And with the head of the docents, we plan extra activities for education, such as the glass studio tour on the 19th. We are also, as part of your training, to let you know if photography of the art is permitted or not. This show is not a problem. People are not to use flashes, but they can take pictures. There will be shows in the future where that will not be permitted. The copyright always resides with the artist, and so the artist gets to call that shot. And it's our job to let you know. We also have maximum capacity numbers, which we'll be addressing further in the program. And if you haven't, some of you know, some of you don't, but part of what we do is also suggest speakers for the Art as a Voice program. March 13th at the Community Theater, Fritz Dreisbach, some of you met him on our tour to Whitby, will be speaking on Where Were You in '62. He is one of the 12 premier glass artists in the United States who started the glass movement in the U.S. early, and he will be speaking. This is something for which an admission is charged. The general public is invited. It's for you to just enjoy along with everyone else.
we have a time. 7 p.m., 4 p.m.
I think it's 7 p.m. I just don't have to know. That won't be a big secret. And we're trying to get through the Morris opening before we launch kind of the PR on that. And you'd understand if we felt like we have our hands full and March seems just
Years away.
too far away. Too far away. The goals of the docents from our perspective is first, protect the art. Secondly, make the visit enjoyable for our guests and keep them safe. Thirdly, to inform and educate our visitors. And fourthly, to learn about the art and artists, educate others, and enjoy yourselves, please. I'm going to pass this out. You know, I skipped something, and I'm going to back up, and I apologize. We're going to go around the room, and I'd like you to give your names, and if you're a docent, a board member, an ex-com committee member, let me know. And I meant to do that, and I lied at the beginning, and I'm sorry. Can we start with doubt for your edification now? And again, it's got, it's 3-hole punch for your notebooks. Is the list of the various people that you will bump into around IMA. I'm sure it will change, but please take one and it will help you identify people.
Diane, can I ask a question?
Surely.
We're asked why no flashes. What's the answer to that?
Barbara, would you like to explain why?
I think on glass, flash is fine.
Yeah.
On photography or paintings or what have you, too many flashes eventually affect, you know, the piece.
And it was easier on Thursday night to just say no flashes than have you kind of memorize, well, yes for this, no for this, yes for this, no for this. So, okay. Some of the things I'm going through apply to docents, some apply to the reception staff. We're going through all of them so that you each understand what the other does. And also, occasionally, some of you as individuals may be switching places momentarily in an emergency situation. but this does apply to all of you. You are the face of IMA. This means that your appearance speaks for all of us. We're asking you to tuck your personal belongings away. It would be advisable to put your purses, etc., and lock them in the trunk of your car, because we do not have, as you can see, storage space here. The office is generally open and you can tuck your car keys in the corner. Temporarily, if you wanted to, you could bring them up here if a workshop is not in progress and tuck purses into these cupboards. But eventually, when workshops are running, those cupboards will have materials, etc. in them, and that won't be available. So it's just as easy to get in the habit of not dragging purses, backpacks, anything like that. Yes, we have a little coat closet, if you will. It's not very big, and if we fill it, then our visitors have no space for anything. Do not use your cell phone while you're on duty except for an emergency. The sound carries throughout the galleries. When I was in working on this show with the Artist Registry show going on, I was on the cell phone because we were measuring things and trying to figure out where some things would go. And I was on the cell phone, and when I first started out, except for docents, there was no one in the exhibit area. But I realized in short order that it's an echo chamber down there. So we just can't do it, nor do we want our guests to do it.
Will there be a sign posted, just a general sign going to the gallery?
Not a
turn off
general
your
sign, but I'm going to show you what we will have.
Diana, I have a quick question because we were talking about cars and parking.
I'll get to that.
Is there a rule about the people who work here parking maybe
Yes.
not in the prime
Yeah,
spots?
it's next on my list.
Okay,
Not to worry.
sorry.
That's okay.
Diane,
At
can I
least you're
just say,
thinking, what?
can I say a quick thing? The docents' voices down there at the desk, you can hear every single thing when you're up here, so that's kind of important.
Well, it's important to know in case you want to say something you don't want people to overhear. Eating is not allowed at the reception desk. Chewing gum is not allowed. If you need to eat, keep the food in the kitchen with the door closed, because any visitor heading toward a restroom can see straight into the kitchen. If you happen to be working at the front desk, it's okay to have a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, as long as it's tucked discreetly away. During lulls, it's fine to chat at the front desk, but that chatting ends as soon as a visitor comes through the door. When you arrive for your shift, a staff member will let you in, or your shift is such that the museum is already open. Turn on any videos or other display equipment, if any. This applies to either docents or reception personnel. This screen with the Morris video will be up here on Saturday when the museum opens to allow space for William Morris to be signing books downstairs. You do all know that William Morris is coming, which is a big change from the previous. What we are actually having in both Friday Harbor and in the Pacific Northwest, if you don't know, between the Tacoma Glass Museum and ourselves, we have the complete royalty of the glass, American glass community. Others are descending here. So, it's going to be very exciting. Also a reminder, the general public doesn't get in until 4. I know that those postcards were printed and circulated, but they were printed and circulated with our hours before we knew Morris was coming. Morris hardly ever goes to an opening, and so this is really quite the event. So he's going to be downstairs signing books, but on Sunday, this moves downstairs with the video attached to it. And I don't have a laminated sheet with me because I gave one set of it to Hella, but pretend I'm waving around a type sheet of paper that's laminated. What Gerard and I are developing is a 1, 2, 3 step operate the TV and the video. It is not a DVD, I'm sorry. It is not going to be hooked up to a computer, and it's going to be very simple. I think that that's something that has caused docents and us some nightmares in the past. So I'm just telling you that by next week, that will be available.
Where is he going to be signing books? Where is this?
Right in the reception area.
Right where the table is.
Not in the galleries, in the reception area. And we have ordered books, and you have to buy the book to get it signed, and we get a little bit of money as a museum from that. He does not sign books, let's say we had 100 books, I'm just picking a number. He does not sign and leave those signed. The value increases when he signs it, and that's great for the people who buy the book. So if you think you're going to buy it 3 weeks from now and it'll have a signature in it, if that's important to you to have, that won't be the case.
That's
Other
really-
artists,
That's really going to be tight, isn't it?
it's what we have to live with.
I guess you
We
did.
got that money.
Because it was tough getting all those people.
Do we know what time William Morris is coming to the gallery, like in the morning or it's all day?
Yvonne,
Yes?
what time is Morris supposed to arrive, do you know?
Yes, 12 o'clock, noon.
Okay.
He'll be here from noon until 5.
Okay. And we are doubling up the docent shifts because it's going to be crowded. Okay, I told you about the cheat sheet. I must have given this back to Helen also. Okay, I'm going to wave my arms around and you're going to imagine this. We decided to not have docent name badges with pins in them because they puncture holes in clothes. The magnet ones don't like thicker clothing, so if you were bending over something, let's say glass, and it fell, you could break something. So what we're having made are name badges with the logo, the branding of the museum, and a big Ask Me on it with first names. They're on white paper, and although that's the most common thing that it would be printed on, there's also a value to white. Depending on what you're wearing, white really stands out. Particularly in this exhibit where the walls are painted dark colors, we want you to stand out. We want people to recognize you as a source of instruction and help, and also in terms of safety. If anybody is interested in possibly misbehaving, the mere presence of you with something on that identifies you as someone in authority for IMA will discourage misbehaving. We know we won't have any of that, but just in case. And it's going to be on a lanyard, so it just hangs around, so it doesn't damage your clothing, and it's not so heavy as to potentially damage artwork. And those should be ready next week. So you put your badges on. When you depart, staff will lock up after you if the museum is closing. If the museum is still open and another shift is coming on, we're hoping that you'll inform the person incoming if anything interesting has happened that they need to know about that day. We are also going to have a book at the front desk for comments. And those can be anything from need more toilet paper in the bathroom, backup stock, to this funny thing happened. One of the things that XCOM does at the end of a show is to write up a summary for the artists. They want to know how many people attended, how did they enjoy it. So one of the things that we really like to have are real quotes, not our made-up quotes or generalizations, about what people thought of the show. And they're going to be telling you, particularly the people at the reception desk. And we don't need them to write it out, but we really like you to record those while they're fresh on your mind. Because what people say is going to be so much more interesting or original than our interpretation of it. So there'll be a book there. So it'll be comments for improvements, comments, questions that need to be answered. They can be questions that you have or questions that guests have. And it's Hella's job to forward those to the appropriate people.
I have a question. Are you going to attribute the books to the people who say them? You know, write down their names?
I don't know.
Well, just if you did.
I don't know.
If they're okay.
I was gonna say, you need permission if you quoted somebody and used their name. If it was just a random sentence.
Oh, no, we don't, I don't need their names. I don't need their names. But that does bring me to, just a second, does bring me to the guest register. and I probably am jumping ahead. No, I'm not gonna jump ahead because I've got more information. Amy?
I always made like a mark when people came in, so we could keep a good tally of how many, like 16 in one day. And then when they were they were visitors, they were tourists, we noted that, so, and then we added it up and gave it to I don't even know who we gave it to, because nobody's really in charge.
You gave it to,
At the time.
you gave it to the curator.
The curator, no,
Whoever
for the
was running the
tax.
show, I remember seeing them.
Okay, so can we do that?
I don't
It's a good idea.
know, is reception already keeping track of how many people come? We must, we knew,
Yes.
we knew
keep track.
when we had our 1,000th visitors, so somebody had to be counting.
We had that clicker.
We keep track of the number, and then we also report when we get tourist money. So if they're from out of town, they get money for that. So it's on the registration sheet when you sign in.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get to that too, trust me. Okay, in case of emergency or accident, dial 911. You do not have to memorize this because in a minute I will hand out a sheet that has this. There is a panic button at the front desk on the left-hand side.
You mean a physical button you can
Physical
press?
panic button.
Dials
Yes.
911 or
Yeah,
what is it?
It's a panic button like in the movies. You push the button and the authorities are notified. At the back door, there are icons. And if you press buttons 1 and 2, you get the police. 2 and 3, you get 911. And 3 and 4, you get the fire department. But there are icons under it. I don't expect you to memorize it. I just want you to be aware of it. And this handout that I'm using as my guideline, you'll be getting in a moment. In case of fire, get everyone out first. Studies show that in the first 20 seconds after somebody yells fire, people will take direction from a person in authority. You're wearing that badge, you're a person in authority. Move them toward the exits. So when you finally get into the galleries again, I want you to identify what those exits are. They'll take direction because, as a guest, they won't have memorized what those exits are. And then when you get outside, call 911 if you haven't hit the panic button. There are fire extinguishers at the desk, in the hallway, in the studio, in the atrium, and 2 in the Nichols Gallery. When you go into those galleries, make sure you're familiar with their locations. What we are cautioning, though, is if there's a fire, you get everybody out, you go back in with a fire extinguisher. I can't talk. Extinguisher. What we don't want to have happen is to have you be overcome by the fumes and have you injured. So fine, grab the fire extinguisher, do your best, but if the fumes and smoke start getting too bad, get yourself out of there, please. Okay, this mostly applies to the reception staff, but we'd like you to be aware of it. The reception staff has visitors sign in as it helps support our grant efforts with the lodging tax and membership efforts. If people do not want to sign in, it would be really helpful if we just have their zip code. We'd love to know where our visitors come from, and signing in helps us with those grants. We've all been to the community theater and they open with the questions about did you stay, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we do the same thing, and any of those numbers that we have gives clout when we write those grant applications. If people don't want to, don't press them. You don't have to ask for their email address, but some people do want information forwarded to them. So the reception people go with the flow on that. Receptionists will point them upstairs if they're coming to the workshop and provide them with the exhibition flyers. This is a sample mock-up of the exhibition flyer that's going to be available starting next week, and I will pass it around. Again, this is something that the exhibit committee writes basically designs, names the show. One of two things. First option is to take their information and give it to Hella, who will forward it to the committee. And on the cheat sheet, you could also phone Rebay, who is collecting those. But please do not say things like, oh, I'm sure we have an opening on our schedule. Or why isn't your art in this show? Or, oh, I'm sure we can squeeze you in, because there are various reasons why we will or won't pick certain themes, group shows, single artist shows. We've got many planned out into the future. The only reason we're not talking about them is we don't talk about and post them until we have a contract. So we don't want you promising or have something you say inadvertently come back as you promised me a show. I mean, that just creates an awkward situation. However, what you can do, if they brought art with them and you like it, you can say something complimentary about their art and make them feel good and send them on their way. Because again, you are the face of IMA, and other artists are part of our visitor community. I'm going to interject a little thing right now that some of you know, but many of you do not know. There is something called the Creative Vitality Index, which measures the economic vitality of the arts, and that would be literary, performing, and visual arts. The baseline for the United States is 1.0. Washington State is higher than that at 1.05. Our county is 2.54. So we have a very vibrant, active community, and all of those people should be coming into our shows. You have a question?
So I'm fairly new to the island. The Artist Registry, the show that just ended, is that still open if someone came in and could they list themselves in the Artist Registry? Is that anything associated with this museum, or is that a completely separate thing?
Yes, and the person to see, if a local artist came in and inquired,
Yes.
Yvonne, who's on your exhibit committee list that I handed out, and in the phone book, she is the head of that.
Okay.
I thought you meant is it still up downstairs, because,
No,
because the local newspaper has it still down there, and that would be no. Oh, okay. Okay, welcoming visitors for the docent staff. Point out art that is touchable, if any, like Matthew Gray Palmer's was in the Artist Registry show. Until informed otherwise, there is no touching the art. And one of the things you're going to see in this show that you haven't seen before is tape about approximately a foot off the bottom of the pedestals to help additionally encourage people to not get too close. Now, part of the issue is the art is enchanting. It's wonderful. We all want to see it. So lots of visitors aren't trying to get too close to threaten the art. They're just kind of drawn right in. So your job will be to say very politely, could you please step behind the line? And I think that's very doable. The other way of handling it would have been, do not step over the line, warning signs, kind of like crime tape. We thought that was just not what we want to do. And so the show's being set up now, but the tape will be one of the last things to go down. Does anybody have any questions about that particular item? Yes, Amy?
Who's gonna dust this stuff?
We aren't touching.
Now, who does it? It just is dusty the whole time? I mean, till May?
Go
No,
ahead,
there is,
Yvonne.
there actually is a mechanism to dust it, okay? But none of you have to worry about it.
Can you just tell me about the
Well,
mechanism?
actually, it's the same type of, it's an aerosol can with, pressurized air, and you blow it off. I was shown how to do this, so if you see dust, yeah.
Don't. Let's just be very
You might note it
clear.
in the little book, though. That might be
Yes,
something
it
to
would be.
say, like, I noticed this was dust.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be a great
That would be a
thing.
great thing to notice. because
That would be a
after
great
3
thing in
months-
the book.
It's like a leaf blower, though. It just adds more,
We're
more
not-
dust to the air. It's
We're not
like,
going to go there today.
well, I'm just curious, that's all.
That's okay. But just to be
Okay.
clear, even the exhibit committee that normally installs art and often handles art None of us touched a single thing going in. There are all kinds of reasons for that. Yes?
Is this tape we're talking about gonna sit a foot off the floor? Will it be a foot out? Will it be taped to the floor?
Taped to the floor.
Taped to the floor, so it'll be like an outline around
Yes.
it. Okay.
And if you've been to SAM and other museums, you've seen the same thing. We did a little research project about all the various ways to protect the art, and we are in no financial position to put vitrine, custom vitrine, over every single piece of artwork, so we've had to go to other means to do that. And those were taken into consideration as the exhibit was designed, I mean, very specifically for the safety rec. Yes, Laura?
Oh, you know, my greatest nightmare is to have a young child come in that the parents don't watch. Because I remember my grandchildren, they would go to a pencil and start shaking it. You know, it just,
Yes, we do have some visitor guidelines which you're going to get in about 2 minutes. And one museum that I talked to, I think it was Bainbridge, said the only time they'd had anything broken was an out-of-control child. And so we'll cover that in a minute with the visitor guidelines. So back to the docent welcome. Know the days of the week, we're open. And don't just stand there. Offer an opening to a conversation when the moment presents itself. Read the patron and be ready to step away and give them their space, and obviously never hover. If people are invited, you know, can I help? Are there any questions that I can help you with? And it'll come, you know, different people will make it clear they just want to look and don't be bothered, and that's what you do. Free admission and donations. This mostly applies to the reception personnel, but you may be asked about it. The admission to the museum is free, but take reasonable opportunities to have visitors make a suggested donation of $10 for adults, $5 for students, and children under 12 are free. Do be warm and inviting, as when you're warm and inviting and the visitors are comfortable, they're more inclined to donate than if you kind of don't say too much to them at all. If they look uncomfortable, restate that admission is free. So even though that responsibility primarily falls to the reception people, who knows what questions you may be asked.
is there a box down
That's what the red vase is right now. And in the morning, Hella seeds that with a couple $10 bills to make it obvious. Before we had a taller vase, which couldn't see that there was money in it, so everybody thought it was just a piece of art on display.
there?
And that red vase may change for something else, but right now its value is you can see the money sticking up in it, so you kind of get the hint without having a big donation sign, and it's red, and red attracts. I guess the other aspect to it is we have a very white and gray reception area, so it adds a little color.
Does it have any sign on it?
No.
Not
I don't know if that'll change in the future, but right now that's the way it is. If docents find items left by visitors, please hand them to Hella or the reception staff with as much information about the item as you can give. Hella will then behave as the lost and found department. Now I'm going to pass out the visitor guidelines. You've probably seen a first draft via email from Richard. Is that true? It went out?
What's that?
The visitor guidelines that I sent you? It has-
I have a set.
The visitors guidelines are laminated and will be at the front desk, and Helen has a copy. And we're making a couple more just in case we find that people are difficult in any regard and we need to post them in the bathrooms or something. So the guidelines are where to store your belongings, camera bags, backpacks, shopping bags, and it was pointed out on Thursday, some women have exceptionally large purses, and the only piece of artwork ever broken at IMA was somebody with a backpack backing into a piece of artwork. So anything that looks overly large, or you have any clue that it is somehow not quite under the control of the owner, we get to have them put it in the coat area. If it's a purse, we can put it in the office, or you can put it under the reception desk. Get close, but please do not touch. And on this visitor guideline sheet, we politely, like I said, it's online, so it's written for a visitor to read, politely inform them as to why they don't get to touch it. There is no smoking or alcoholic beverages. There is no food or drink allowed in the galleries unless somebody has a medical condition that requires that they carry a bottle of water. Usually those people want to identify themselves so they don't get bothered.
So if they do bring in water and you just say to them, like they do at the fair, well, where should I put it?
In the coat area,
In the
there's
coat.
shelves above it.
Okay.
So you might ask, what's going to happen next week when we have a reception? 4 different shows, we have artist receptions, and food and drink is served. Next week, that food and drink is going to be served up here, not down there. Up here. And some of us are arranging to relieve people of, if they start into the galleries with either food or drink, to remove it from them. Some of you are going to be working next Saturday when this occurs. Some people may not take kindly to have it removed. But I don't care if they donated $100,000 to the museum, for which we're exceedingly grateful. It's our first job to keep the artwork safe. And lots of us will also be on duty helping you with those chores.
I just want to make sure I have this. So there's no alcohol in the galleries even on the opening night?
There could be a kind of a show in the future where there is an opening night where it might be okay.
But not this one?
Not this one, and not in the foreseeable future.
So that's a different policy for us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're offering champagne.
I was told as a greeter that they would be handed champagne.
And
already
directed up
poured,
here.
And directed up here,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, Charlie and Helen were both here on Thursday, so
Okay.
I got a couple of extra tidbits.
So they can drink in the reception and drink up here.
Yep.
As soon as they hit one of those doors,
You can't
that's
go in
end
the
of
gallery.
discussion.
Yep.
Please.
Please finish your
We're going to need bouncers.
I think you could simply say it's an insurance issue, which it is.
Yeah.
So it's very simple.
And this will be, that no drinking, is that going to be clearly marked at the
No.
doors, the entrances
No,
in?
that's what-
kind
no.
of thing?
No, we didn't spend time and money making a beautiful building to kind of plaster signs like that over it. But it will be a slight change in habit, because I'm usually had Friday night receptions with snacks and cocktails. And to the best of my knowledge, except for if somebody got something on the floor near the food table, we never had any accidents with that. We're now stepping up our game. We're in a different league. We are in an incredible league with the artists we have here. Our first responsibility is to keep the art safe. Having people potentially drink too much or just get sloppy is not acceptable. So there are going to be many people, including the exhibit committee, and if some more rules need to be ironed out specifically for next Saturday, they will be, and you'll hear about them. Strollers are not allowed. You can store them in the closet, or, and I've written on the guidelines, check them with the docents. That's been corrected, and it won't be leaving with the docents, it'll be leaving them with reception. Children are welcome in the galleries, and we hope they have a wonderful experience. However, we require them to be under control and the supervision of adults at all times. What you can possibly say if you see a child looking not quite under control is, would you please get your child under control? I would really hate to have to ask you to leave the museum.
What's the cutoff for a child, 18?
What's the what? 12.
If anybody's misbehaving, but if an adult is misbehaving, you can be more blunt. On Thursday, I was asked, what if somebody comes in and who's completely out of control? And my response was, ask them to leave. If they don't leave, escort them out. Or I'm referring to adults or people over 12. And if they persist, then call the police. I don't think it'll ever come to that, but you know, somebody could stagger in the front door. I know, and I think every woman sitting in this room knows that when presented with a difficult situation, we are in fact physically stronger than we thought we were, and we are in fact able to escort them out the door. Thank you very much. But when it comes to children, we want to be tactful. But remember, some children are used to children's museums where they're encouraged to run and touch everything. And so most parents should be quite aware of the difference. One of the reasons we've asked Hella, and perhaps you've had a request for group tours, we've asked to not schedule any group tours with small children until well after the opening, because there are special guidelines that we all need to know for group tours with children. And we'd probably be doubling or tripling up on the docents if they don't have enough either teachers or parents in tow with that. So we're not going to get into group tours with children today. We're kind of trying to shove that off when we've got kind of more spare brain power. Photography, we've already covered, but that changes from artist to artist. We've covered cell phones, that applies to our guests for the same reason it applies to us. And firearms, even if they're legal, don't get to come in here. Yes?
So William Morris, even though flash does not hurt the glass, his opinion is that he doesn't want the flash.
Correct.
It's his opinion?
That's what I was told. Yvonne, do you have any other
I'm
response
just
to that?
curious about that because I have to check the contract. We may not be able to take pictures.
That was the second thing. Either it hurts the art or there is a contractual, there's a copyright issue where the artist does
I
not
will
want
look that
his
up.
work photographed.
If-
So I think it varies from show to show, and we will let you know.
We'll let you know about that because I think
Isn't that pretty standard in most museums and art galleries that you do not take
Yes.
photographs?
Yes.
and I am 90%
No,
sure.
not really.
No.
Yes and no, but now with
No.
smartphones, people freely disobey that. So Yvonne is going to give you the final answer, and
Right.
you'll get the final answer to that question from Yvonne next Thursday
Okay.
and Friday.
We'll get.
Yvonne, that's your assignment now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Diane, may I ask, I didn't even notice, but is the museum wheelchair accessible?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Group tours. You will be especially trained for tours for children.
Diane?
Yeah, I have one question here. I don't see anything on here about pets, guide dogs, or anything like that. And I say that because I've had a couple people that wanted to become a docent, but they're allergic to dogs and pets. And they have been here in the museum when staff brings in a pet. There's been some folks bringing dogs.
That'll end.
Huh?
That ends.
Okay,
Now-
well, I'm just curious, did dogs and,
Well, if somebody genuinely has an assist animal, we're not legally allowed to bar them
Right.
from coming in, and we have to obey the law. But people bringing their pets in, no. I mean, I'd love to have brought my pets in while I was working, but out of deference to all kinds of things, even when the art wasn't here, obviously I didn't do it. We felt that that was so obvious, it's either a matter of law for the legitimately handicapped with assist animals, or we didn't even put it on the list. To us, it's so obvious. Yes?
Do we have any bandages, things like that?
First aid kit.
I'm pretty sure there's one back in the office. Hella would have to answer that specifically. So if you see her, please ask. Right now, there's stuff in that back office area that isn't put away yet, that has to get put away by next week. And so even if I told you that the first aid kit was in a cupboard, it might be in a different cupboard.
I think there was a first aid kit in the kitchen, because I think I got a Band-Aid out of it, cut myself on a
Okay.
piece of paper.
And no do we have a defibrillator?
No.
No?
No. No panic buttons. This is the outline I'm using. There are a couple of little typos in it. You'll have to just forgive me. I think the sets are the same as others. If people need to queue up to get in, they will be queuing up in the reception area. Peter is getting stanchions, not ropes and stanchions, but you get the idea. So they'll be held there. Now, we do have, for each show, the maximum number of people allowed in each gallery may change. And the reason that may change is it depends on how many pedestals and walls are in there taking up floor space. So on your cheat sheet, please turn to the section 15 that says counting and holding visitors. Each show will be different. Here are the numbers for this show. The Nichols Gallery maximum capacity is 64, the Atrium 40, the North Gallery 19, and a total of 123. That includes counting yourselves. You'll be given counters to count people, and in the case between the Nichols Gallery and the Atrium, I think you'll also have a stanchion and rope. And when 4 people leave, 4 more can come in.
How do you go down on a counter?
I don't know. I
You
don't
can't.
have.
It always goes up.
I don't
You
have.
have to put it in your head.
We lost control.
You can't. And so what'll happen is when it's capacity, it'll be your job to do the math. You know, once you get up to say 65 in the Nichols Gallery, you know there's 65 in here and 4
And then you
people
wait, 4
leave.
people leave and you let 4 people.
4 people leave. That's how they're,
I think the
Barb,
gallery,
would you like to add something?
yeah, I think the gallery to really watch is the North Gallery.
Because it's the tightest.
It's the tightest, and there's some.
Excuse me, Barbara, we have another conversation going on.
We're trying to figure out how many freaking sheets you gave us.
3 or 3?
3 pages,
3 pages.
plus the first one we got.
Yeah.
Okay, is that taken care of?
And I have one more set.
Is that taken care of? Barbara, please try again.
The North Gallery is the one to watch. First of all, you have quite a few pedestals. They're very close together. It's very crowded in there. And if there's such a thing as the artwork being dangerous, that
That's
artwork in
the
there
place.
is dangerous. That's the one to watch.
The North Gallery.
The North Gallery. So I almost poked my eye out when I walked in, and I came around the corner and I was startled. I think that probably has been,
Adjusted.
it's
has
been
been
adjusted to a point, but
to a point, but the works are, there are lots of sharp edges and what have you. So people with children in there, I mean, beware. You really have to insist that they have their children by the hand. That's the gallery to watch for
And we're
potential
trying to-
problems.
I believe Susan told me we're doubling up on docents for this show. So when you do the count, you're counting those of us in XCOM who are going to be on the floor with you. Each of us have taken a day for the first several days of the Morris show so that if questions crop up, we're there to help you. But of course, our bodies also count as part of those 19. And when you see the show and walk through it next week, there are more than 19 of you in this room. You're going to see exactly how crowded that is. It's our responsibility to give you these numbers for every show. There could be shows where there are virtually no pedestals, and the numbers grow.
Sorry, Dan, what did you say the number was for the North Gallery?
They're on page, they're on point 15.
Yeah.
It's
Point
11
point
on this.
15.
or
Point 11.
It says 11.
Oh, I must have rearranged, I'm sorry, I must have rearranged my cheat sheet.
I'm sorry, how many
Go ahead.
for the North Gallery?
The North Gallery is 19,
That's what she said.
the Atrium is 40, the Nichols Gallery is 64, and a total of 123. The total of 123 falls to people in reception. If there's a line out, they only obviously at the moment, if all the galleries are empty, and the moment you open in the morning, Sunday morning, the first 123 people come on in. That's easy, there's plenty of room for them. That doesn't mean they can all go into one gallery. And when you see it, it will become abundantly clear to you why this is critical.
Diane?
Yes.